Hello, our storytelling friends. I am Steve Garvin, and I am the host of Stories with Gold, where every Tuesday at noon, I invite an expert to come in and share their story and help us to reach our destination of desire with a little bit greater ease and a whole lot more joy. And today I am joined by Millen Livis, and Millen is a financial independence mentor, best-selling author, investor, and entrepreneur. She's a graduate of the acclaimed Wharton Business School. She holds a master's degree in physics. She's a certified NLP practitioner and certified instant miracle energy healer. Millen combines her traditional and holistic education to help professional and entrepreneurial women become financially independent and retire early, so that they enjoy more choices and more freedom without having to worry about money. And she does this by using the Millionaire Method, her time-tested holistic system for creating financial independence. Millen has been financially independent for over 10 years. She's happily remarried and lives in resort-like locations in the south of France and South Florida. Welcome to our conversation today, Millen.
Thank you for having me, Steve. I really appreciate this opportunity to chat with you. I always enjoy our conversations, as you know. Today it would be a little bit of sniffing probably added because as we chatted before, I have allergies. So my apologies if I need to sneeze or like cough a little bit, but life happens, right?
Life does happen, and allergies do happen, no matter. They seem to hit everybody. So, Millen, I'm a little bit curious. We were talking a little bit before we began this conversation today, talking about that you're originally from Lithuania, that when you immigrated to the United States, that English was not even your second language. It was something that you weren't familiar with. Tell us a little bit about that journey, if you would.
Okay. First of all, I forgot to ask you, how much time do we have today for this conversation?
Sure. So the maximum will be about 45 minutes. We're going to shoot.
Okay, that's plenty of time because usually, like when I interview people, as you know, it's about 25 minutes. So we have time. So yes, I'm a first-generation immigrant from Lithuania. I came to the United States over 20 years ago with my then husband and my 8-year-old daughter. And even though we were well educated, I had master's degree in physics from my country, I did not speak English. So I was aware of this language, but I didn't speak in order to basically support myself and communicate freely. So it was challenging. The beginning was challenging. We were on welfare for, I think, 6 months. And I was working as a florist assistant, $4.50 per hour minimum wage. And I was very happy because I was able to support my family. And we were trying to save to buy a car, a used car, so we could go on interviews. So it took me 1 year to teach myself English. So within 1 year, I was speaking well enough to be hired as an IT consultant for Merrill Lynch. I always wanted to work for brokerage companies because I wanted to learn how to invest in the stock market. And as you know, very often our dreams come true when we focus on what we want to experience. So within 1 year, I was working for Merrill Lynch.
Awesome. I'm in the process of learning, and honestly, my language acquisition began in high school when I studied both German and Spanish. And I'm currently learning German, Spanish, Welsh, and Greek. And to learn a language in a year, that's quite a feat. So
when you have to do something because you don't have options, your motivation goes through the roof. And basically, and commitment too. So commitment is a very important component. Motivation is very important component. And I was super committed. And frankly, when you don't have other choices, it helps too.
Yes.
And unlike you, I was not focused on multiple languages. So being very specifically focused, not dispersing your attention over multiple languages, that was helpful as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. I have experienced that in different areas of my life where, you know, for me, it was the struggle literally between life and death that I had to figure out, how do I live my life in a way that is more joyful, that is more fulfilling, rather than continuing down the really tough areas of depression and suicide. So being motivated like that and being committed to finding a better way, produced a lot of miracles in my life. So I can relate to what you're saying.
You know what is interesting, because we spoke before, and I'm not a stranger to depression and suicidal thoughts. What is interesting that when we just came, that didn't occur to me. I was responsible for a child. I was responsible for myself. So, basically I was in a state where the basic needs needed to be uh, met. And when you're not just responsible for yourself, but for someone else, that's a huge motivation. So I didn't care what someone thinks about me. I didn't care what I need to do to make money. Like I was highly educated. I had very good experience already, but I found job as a florist assistant for minimum wage, and I was very grateful for this job.
Mm,
So I guess it's a state of mind. But what I do remember during this time, that somehow I was grateful for very simple things in life. I was continuously grateful, like that we had, because it was very challenging process of immigrating. We lived in different countries because we were basically just personas non grata when we
mm,
left, because it was part of Soviet Union. They were punishing people for not obeying their rules and stuff like that. So it was very challenging journey for us to arrive to this country. And I remember that, and I think that's what saved me and us, that I was noticing any little thing that was working in our
mm.
lives at this time, that we were together, that we had a healthy child, etc., etc. I was focused on that. And I think that was the key. At this time, it was intuitive, it was subconscious. But now looking back, I was not thinking what was missing, that we're poor, that we don't have like professional jobs. So all of this noise was not part of my thinking. And I
Mm.
think that was a huge, huge element of our success, my success, our success. Because
That's
within 1 year, we both were working. My then husband also found a job as a IT consultant for brokerage companies. So it was very interesting experience for us, because being grateful for what you have and consciously directing your focus on what works in your life.
yeah,
Now I teach that. Then I intuitively fell into this.
sure.
And I think that was very helpful.
Absolutely. And similar for me, learning to change my perspective from scarcity and lack to gratitude, and not just gratitude for what I was experiencing in the moment, gratitude for, as living in Washington State, which has got quite the reputation for being, always overcast and rainy, and there's a lot of truth to that. But one of the things that I learned to how to view it was that, yes, it's often overcast, but it's always beautiful, right? That there's always something beautiful to be seen, no matter how much rain there is, or no matter how long it's been since you've seen the sun, or whatever. But and I think that's was a real key for me, is learning to see the world as a beautiful place, rather than this dangerous, awful place that it's easy to get caught up in.
Steve,
So,
I just wanted to comment on what you just said, because it is so true that everything is a perception. Everything is a perception. There is no absolute truth, because the same event, the same surrounding, the same house, the same person is perceived differently by different people. So everything is a matter of perception. And when we're aware of this, we can choose how we want to perceive our experience, how we want to perceive uh, our career, how we want to perceive who we are, our identity. And when knowing that we have a choice is a very powerful thing, I
mm,
think, to be aware of.
absolutely. Yeah. It's like what Viktor Frankl said, that, pretty much everything can be taken away from us except for our ability to choose our perspective. I think he used
Exactly.
different words, but essentially the
Yeah.
same idea. Um, so tell us, how did you change your perspective? So you started as an IT consultant for a brokerage firm. How did you move from there to being a financial independence consultant, mentor for women and entrepreneurs particularly?
Yeah, you can say consultant too, because ultimately that's what I do when I work with people. So that's a little bit longer story, because I work for major Wall Street companies for a while. So I was changing companies, but I was always working for brokerage companies, and for the most part, if not all the time, in the World Trade Center. And I climbed the corporate ladder like most people do when they work for corporate. So I became an executive. I was then just before I basically resigned, I was managing a team of data modelers. We were developing models for trading applications and things like that. So on the surface, I had a prestigious, well-paying job. I had a very nice house in the suburbs of New York. I had a family. I had tennis parties. I had nice clothes. I had nice car. On the surface, I was living an American dream.
Mm,
But it's not always true that you can see, right? There are some uh, hidden currents that happen in people's lives and in families. And for some reason, which I cannot explain, I started feeling void inside me.
mm,
I remember I was sitting in my office, looking at the computer screen and thinking, like, is that all there is? Like, I feel like I'm dying inside. Like,
mm,
what is happening with you? I became a shopaholic because I couldn't pinpoint the void that I was experiencing, the causes. My family, my marriage was not a very loving marriage. It was more like a, friendship, roommates kind of marriage. The work was not really, I lost the meaning.
mm,
I think I was looking for a meaning in my life. And I mentioned that I became a shopaholic. I would go across the street because I was working in World Trade Center. I will go to Century 21 and buy some stuff, bring home, try it on, and then bring it back. It was like emptiness that I was trying to fulfill with some very weird habits. And it was this search for meaning that started from being honest with yourself and being aware that something is just I felt like I was dying inside. On the
mm,
surface, it was fine, and I couldn't really discuss this with my then husband because we were very different people in terms of, I had inclination toward spirituality. I
mm,
started doing yoga and meditation, and he was very practical, very Wall Street uh, type of person, and so was I. But something started changing in me, and we kind of drifted apart. And then also at work, like I said, the meaning was gone for me. I already knew how to invest in the stock market, and I didn't feel like I wanted to spend the rest of my life doing that kind of work, being in that kind of environment. So because I didn't know what else to do, I said, okay, maybe I will go to business school, because education was very important in my family. My manager, I think it was Morgan Stanley, he went to Wharton Business School, and he said, Millen, just go, because it will give you different perspectives, different opportunities. So basically, I went to the Wharton Business School without clear idea why.
Mm.
So, and it was very vigorous study. It was very challenging. And when I graduated, I still wasn't sure what to do next. However, I kind of felt clear that I don't want to be in corporate anymore.
Mm.
And I took a little bit of time for myself to really do kind of self search, self discovery. And what I uncovered was that my core value was freedom, that
Mm.
I didn't want to be with any man just because I was afraid that I cannot support myself. I didn't want to work for any boss just because I was afraid of being fired, or doing the work the way he or she wanted me to do. And I didn't want to depend on government.
Mm.
And I was very clear what I didn't want to experience, because I experienced all of that.
Mm-hmm.
So then when I realized that, okay, I don't want that, but what do I want? And the clear, like, big vision that I had for myself was, I want to have freedom,
Mm.
freedom to live my life on my terms. And so number one, I didn't mention this, that I actually walked out of my job and my marriage even before I went to Wharton Business School. And the thing is that I was told at work that I asked if I could work part-time, go to Wharton and work part-time, and they said yes. And then at the last moment they said, well, no, you have to choose. You either go to your business school or you stay here full time. You cannot have both. You
Mm.
cannot have all in your life. And it was very tough, because I was already living, I left my ex-husband, everything, because it was my decision to leave. So I rented a small apartment across the river from downtown New York, where I was working at that time. And basically I was I was facing the choice, like, how do I support myself? I did have savings, and should I just continue doing what was comfortable and familiar and known, or I should just follow my decision, which was to go to business school. And it was one of few times when I decided to follow my intuition.
Mm.
And I resigned. And I resigned. It was June 2001. And as you know, 9/11 happened a couple of
Oh, right.
months later. If I didn't follow my intuition, if I didn't resign, if I followed what is comfortable, what is known, I would have been in World Trade Center on that day.
Wow.
I saw 9/11 unfolding across the river
Mm.
in real time. And I was like, oh my God. I had my friends there, I had my colleagues there. So you can imagine the shock. I'm still having goosebumps. I don't often share this story, but I think it's appropriate to, since we're talking about Rich's story. So that was one of my big ahas about trusting your intuition, knowing that there is something bigger than you are, that you can connect to, which intuition is. So anyway, so I kind of sidetrack a little bit from your question. So I graduated. I knew that I don't want to go back to corporate, especially after all this experience and trauma and stuff like that. And I said, I want to start my own business. I want
Mm.
to be independent, financially independent. And I started doing research in how do I become financially independent. I had to have multiple sources of income, so I would not depend on any one source, and
Mm.
eventually have multiple passive sources of income. So that's how I kind of like started, putting one step in front of the other. So I already knew how to invest in the stock market, and I was investing successfully. but it was not enough for me in terms of sources of income. So I decided to start real estate investment company. And I was fortunate enough to find business partners who were interested in investing with me, and we started investing together. And the beginning was great. I had a team, so we were making great progress. We were finding great deals, and then 2008 happened, and basically everything we were upside down. Everything just kind of fell apart like a house of cards, and I fell apart with this house of cards. My business partner started asking their money back, and I was scared because we couldn't sell at this time. I had to let go of my team, and I became so scared, so depressed, and most importantly, I felt like a complete failure. I felt like I had great experience, great education, great potential. And look where I am right now. I was financially broke because I was, paying from my savings for my team. I tried to keep them as long as I could. I was emotionally broken. I was alone because after I left my husband, my family basically just stopped talking to me. I was very, very lonely. My daughter was in college. I didn't want her to know how I felt. So I was avoiding people. I was avoiding my daughter. So I was kind of self-sabotaging myself to the extent that only maybe you could realize. It was complete self-sabotage. And one day I was driving to see my real estate client, and I got into a car accident, injured my neck so badly that I was in enormous pain, and I didn't have health insurance. So I was like, okay, so what's the point to continue? And it was a moment when I remember it was Valentine's Day. I was completely alone. Like I said, financially broken, broke and emotionally broken. And I was like, okay, so what would be the easiest way to finish this whole thing? And somehow I remember I was walking somewhere, I don't know, maybe I went to buy groceries. I met this woman, and we started talking, and she detected something that I said, I don't remember. And she said, you have to talk to this guy. I said, okay, so let me give me his number, because I knew that I'm not gonna call, but I was trying to be polite. She said, no, you give me your number, he will call you. So because I would not call anyone, I would not ask for help. I was like completely shut down. I was not thinking straight. I was not sleeping, and I was not eating. Like I remember what I ate was chocolate. Like sometimes 12 o'clock at night, I suddenly would eat chocolate. But other than that, I was like I was ready to go. And so when this person called me, he happened to be a life coach, and we started talking. And basically, he helped me realize that failure is not a person. Failure is an event. It has a beginning and it has an end. That was huge. He helped me to shift my perceptions on my definition of success that was influenced by other people. Oh, I'm such a failure because my business didn't work out, things like that. So very slowly, it was baby steps. I started unraveling this state I was in, state of self-sabotage, state of not seeing possibilities for myself, etc. And I started feeling better. I started sleeping better. I started eating again, and started making better decisions. And I was already experienced, because when I decided to build this real estate investment company, I followed a lot of very good real estate investors. I flew all over the country just to hear from them, to learn from them. So I started thinking more straight, right? I became more functional, pretty much. And I made some really good investment decisions during this time. Decisions in terms of stock market, in terms of real estate investments and stuff like that. And within a few years, my business partners started asking me if they could join me again. So it was like a shift that I could never imagine was possible when I was like at the bottom of the barrel, so to speak.
Yep.
And yeah, and so I became financially independent within a few years after that. But what I didn't mention yet, that during this turmoil time in my life, I was not raised, by the way, I was not raised as a religious person or even spiritual person. But because I didn't have anything else to rely on, anyone else or anything else to reach out to or count on, intuitively, I started praying and I started meditating. I would sit like for hours and, pray and just kind of stay in stillness.
Mm.
And by the way, that's what I shared in my books. I didn't mention that when this whole thing was over, I wrote the books, and I shared in my first book, A Shift Toward Purpose. I shared my prayers. I shared my journey pretty much from being this corporate kind of formal suit woman to becoming very spiritual. I believe that I'm deeply rooted in spirituality right now. And yet quite practical, because I am an active investor and I do have multiple sources of income. And that's what I teach now to other people, because I know that it's possible. It doesn't matter where you are. What is important is that you know what you want in your life, that you know your values, because once you know your values, and I'm not just talking about like particular amount of money. Like in my case, it was, I knew that freedom was important for me more than anything else, more than fancy houses or fancy clothes or whatever, right? So once you know your values, you start aligning your choices and your decisions with these values, with these goals, with these dreams that you have. And that will get you closer and closer to where you want to be. And that's how the Millionaire Method, it's not the Millionaire Method, it's actually the Millionaire Method was born, because what I did, I reverse engineered what I did in my life. And I realized that I had these 4 pillars that helped me to create the beautiful life, incredible life that I have right now. Honestly, sometimes I just can't believe that I was able to do that, which proved to me again and again that anything is possible. So that's how the Millionaire Method was created, and it has 4 pillars: developing wealth mindset, becoming you've got to develop wealth mindset, you've got to become financially savvy, you've got to learn how to grow your money by investing strategically. And the third and the fourth dimension was what I call practical spirituality. We all have this power inside of us that we can connect to, that we can relate to, and we can ask for support. We can ask we can ask questions and we can actually receive answers. So that's my I call it holistic system to becoming financially independent, because I don't believe that just knowing how to save and how to keep your budget, or just how to invest in stock market or real estate or cryptocurrency or whatever, it's not enough. But at the same time, it's also not enough just to meditate all day or pray all day, etc. So we are multidimensional beings, and that's why approach to financial independence, my approach at least, I believe has to be multidimensional. And that's why I created this holistic system for becoming financially independent and called it the Millionaire Method. My coach helped me he said, "Oh my God, you have a perfect name for your method." And I was like, let's do it.
It's so those of you who are trying to visualize what that millionaire method, so just imagine millionaire, but instead of the ION, it is Millen's name.
Millen and then air.
Yes. Which is really clever, and I think it's awesome. So, and I
have to give credit to my coach, because it didn't occur to me, but I liked it. So,
well, I think that actually goes to one of your points that you made about your pillars, is that you ask. You don't have to come up with all the solutions yourself. It's being open to contributions from the universe, from other people, from whatever is around us. I know for me, a large part of my life, I always felt like I was the one that had to come up with the answers. And if I didn't come up with the answer, then I wasn't doing what I needed to be doing, and so I wasn't very open to other people's contributions.
It's interesting what you just said. It's so super important because right now I have several coaches. I have, I think, like maybe 4 or 5 coaches right now simultaneously, because they all help me to see certain things in my life, in my work, in my business that I cannot see because I'm part of the picture, right? So
Yeah.
it's when you're part of the picture, you cannot really see certain things, because we all have blind spots, blind areas.
Yes.
And one of my clients, she said, "Oh my God, we have so much to learn from you." And I said, "Oh my God, I have so much to learn from other people." And I sincerely feel that way. I learn from my clients. I learn from people I meet. I learn from my coaches. I am a perpetual student of life.
That's
And
awesome.
I think this attitude, like having the mindset of the beginner, it's not like, oh, I know that, or I know that. I
Yeah.
always find something that I have not known yet. And I'm excited. I always like a child. I'm so excited. I I read books, multiple books at the same time, because my mind is so curious. I cannot stop. Oh my God, I want to learn this and want to learn this. I even took a photo reading course because I want to like swallow these books as quick as possible, because I feel like I'm running out of time. I want to learn more. I want to give more.
Yeah.
That's another thing that is very important for me, to be able to give, because that for me is such a joyful experience. And also I feel like it's my duty, because you know by the great grace of God and my efforts and my choices, I created remarkable life. And I feel that it's just not enough to just rest on my laurels, so to speak,
Sure.
right? So that's how I feel.
Absolutely. And I think that's wonderful. One of the ways, going back to where you were saying, that we have it's interesting, our perspective on ourselves, right? Nobody else can get inside our heads like we can get inside our heads. But nobody, like, I can't see the back of my own head, right? I mean, like literally, I unless I use a mirror or something, even then it's, so we only have a limited perspective on ourselves. So there's certain things we know about ourselves, but certain things that only other people can see that we don't see, right? And so it's being open to both, that when we open ourselves to contributions from other people. And one of the things that I adopted from those crash test dummies back in the, I don't know, the 80s or so, where like you see the commercial and the crash test dummy slams into the wall, and they get out of the car and say, "You can learn a lot from a dummy." I adopted that as, I can learn a lot from a dummy. So even if I think someone is a dummy, which I don't, but there's always something to learn from everybody we meet. And
I think it's an attitude and state of mind when you approach everything with the attitude of the beginner, versus when you approach everything and everyone with the attitude, I know it already. Then you close. You don't have really space to learn something new. So I always, first of all, I love to observe life. I love to observe people. I notice patterns, and that's part of what I teach. Like when I say, we all have certain money patterns, certain behavior patterns. So I'm just kind of like, I don't know, maybe it was my training as a scientist that contributes to this. But yeah, I just love to observe and notice patterns and behavior. And yes, we know ourselves better than anyone else, but at the same time, very often we have like we in a circle that doesn't have exits. and we're running, at least that's my experience when I was depressed, and I felt like I didn't have exit except for
Yes.
suicide, because it was a circle that my mind was tricking me
Yes.
over to stay in this circle without exits.
Yes.
And so it took this outsider to shift my perceptions and my perspectives on certain things. And that's why I said everything is a perception. You know,
Yeah.
when your perception is the success is ABC, and you don't fit into this ABC frame, then you will feel like a failure. But when someone will tell you, no, 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 there are other options out there, and you can see this and you can experience this, and suddenly you're like, oh my God, I don't have to conform to this cultural definition of success. And
Yes.
that's what this aha was for me.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. One of the ways that I look at it is we can, at any moment, we can either be circling downward, kind of circling the drain, so to speak, or we can be creating outward, right? It's kind of like you can have the grinding wheel where, it's tearing things down, or you can have the spinning wheel where it's building things up, right? And I like the way that the point that you made about someone kind of pushed you out of where you were kind of spiraling downwards, and helped you to see it from a different perspective and see, what the way that I've been viewing and valuing myself, doesn't I don't have to look at myself that way. I can look at the situation and see, that even though, the economy is really difficult, my business didn't turn out the way that I imagined it and so forth, there's still some beauty here. There's still some good things that, that are going on in my life. The
I
sun
like to
still keeps
see, I
waking
just
up.
want yeah, I'm sorry, just so love to comment on what you just said. I started seeing myself or other people. I believe we all have ego, which I call small self with small s,
Mm,
and we all have self with capital S, which is a higher self.
mm,
So we can either see life through the lens of ego or small self, or how come I'm not this, I don't have that, etc. These are all ego talk. Or
sure.
we can perceive certain experience from the lens or through the lens of this self with a high S,
Mm,
and which is we all have this kind of divine self in us. We all have this divine lives in us. And
absolutely.
when we have this awareness, everything suddenly shifts. It's amazing. It's really amazing. It's a miracle. And I train myself now to see miracles in little things, in simple things around. And I like, again, I'm back to the state of gratitude. It's my attitude right now, state of gratitude that I had back when, I had we didn't have money, we didn't have houses, we didn't have jobs, but I felt contempt. I felt complete. I felt whole.
Mm,
So it's not what you have, it's how you perceive what you have
mm,
that matters.
that's beautiful. Yeah, and honestly, similar feelings. When I look back on myself when I was really, really struggling with depression, and how I am now, I tell people I have to pinch myself, because it's like, is this real? Do I the feeling like I had the world on my shoulders, right? And like I've got to carry it all myself, and realizing, what, I can put that thing down, right? I don't have to carry it. It's not my responsibility to take care of all the problems in the world. It's I have the opportunity to make a contribution, and to do some good things in the world. But we're all in this together, and we all have something to contribute, and to recognize the value that we have to contribute to other people. I think it just, one, removes that weight of the world on our shoulders, but also helps us to see, that there's an awful lot of good in the world. There's a lot of beauty and a lot of things to be really grateful
I think it's important how we define success, like for ourselves, not conforming to this social definition of success, etc. But I also feel, at least for me, and again, I speak for myself, I feel that it's my duty and obligation to be successful, to give what life gave me opportunity to experience and to learn, because I meet so many specifically women in a very similar situation that I used to be, who are suffering, who worry about money, who don't know what their next step can be. And for me, having this experience, having the knowledge, right now I'm deeply involved into a study of science of consciousness. That's my new passion right now. So for me not to share this, I think it would be just not forgivable mistake. And that's why when I hear people say, why don't you just enjoy, you have a villa in the south of France, you have a beautiful house by the ocean in south of Florida, why you just don't just enjoy your life? Why you work and speak and teach, and why you do that? And the reason is that it's something that just feels right. I call it feel good compass. I always follow my feel good compass. It would not feel good for me just to kind of, like I said, rest on my laurels and enjoy my beach that I can see from my window. It wouldn't feel right. So it's very important to be aware of what is your definition of success in life and just follow this.
Absolutely. And be open to that expression, right? I had to learn, coming from an accounting background, where success had a very specific definition, I had to learn that, there's only so much that we can capture on the books, that, and much of what's really beautiful and valuable in life isn't captured on some financial statement. It's the stuff that's off the books that oftentimes has the greater value, the greater worth. That's not to say that there isn't value to those financial statements. It's just not all the value. So
yeah, it's having this holistic approach to life, to your work, to your relationships. It's super important.
absolutely. So Millen, our time has come to a close. I've really enjoyed our conversation. I appreciate you so much for all that you've done, and for your willingness to share. Can you tell us a little bit about how people might learn more about what you're doing and perhaps more about this Millionaire Method?
Sure. Actually, I would love to, we have a special connection, Steve, right? We spoke a couple of times before. So I would like to make offer very special opportunity to people who will watch this. I want to invite you to have a complimentary consultation with me, how to never worry about money again. And the value is $500, but it would be free for you. And you can schedule it at the link speakwithmillen.com. Millen is with double L. So speak with Millen, MILLEN.com. And you can schedule this consultation with me. And also those who will speak with me, we will talk about potential money leaks, 4 steps to create your financial independence in your life, because it's unique for everybody. So you will get enormous value from this complimentary consultation. And also I will offer you an opportunity to download Beginner Investor Toolkit. It's a PDF where I describe how to start investing strategically, because investing on hard tips is not the way to invest and not worry about money again. So that's what I would like to offer. And again, it all starts with booking the appointment with me at speakwithmillen.com.
Awesome. I'll put that link in the comments as well. Thank you again so much for your time and sharing all that you've shared. I'm so grateful that you've experienced what you've experienced.